Rebuilding America's military. President Trump unveiled the administration's 2019 budget proposal yesterday. It includes more than $686 billion in military spending. Among the earmarks, funds to modernize equipment, buy 10 new combat ships, as well as bump in production for the F-35 and the F-A-18 aircrafts.
In the budget, we took care of the military like it's never been taken care of before. In fact, General Mattis called me. He goes, "Wow, I can't believe I got everything we wanted." I said, "That's right, but we want no excuses. We want you to buy twice, okay? Twice what you thought for half the price." So maybe we're going to get involved a little bit in the buying. We want to get twice as many planes for half the price.
Joining us this morning is Fox News senior strategic analyst General Jack Keane. General, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for being here.
Glad to be here, Maria.
Your reaction to the proposal?
Well, it's absolutely what we needed, certainly. General Mattis is completely correct about that. This is the largest peacetime plus-up in the military budget in almost 40 years. And we cannot recover in one or two budgets. We have to sustain these increases for about 5 to 6 years. It took us a long time to get in this desperate situation. But there's money in the budget clearly to begin to fix our problems. We've got to grow the size of the military. We've got to fix our equipment that we have. So much of it is in disrepair right now. We just need the money to buy the repair parts. And then, as you mentioned in the introduction, we need future capacity that we don't have now. And there's money in the budget to get us there. The Russians and the Chinese have closed on us from a technology perspective. We do not have the decided advantage that we used to have.
So, General, yesterday we had on David Stockman, who was here on set, and he was very upset about the budget numbers. And when I pushed him on that, and I said, well, what about the readiness or the lack of our military? What about all of these accidents that we keep having? What about the fact that 50% of our planes are not even flyable? He said, none of that is true. He said, absolutely not. We don't need all of this money for this. We need to stop putting our men and women all over the world. Why are we still in Afghanistan? Why are we still in Iraq? I mean, this from the person who actually was Reagan's budget director, who actually left. He stepped down. He quit because he was upset by the spending levels in the Reagan administration. What do you want to say to him?
Well, he has a different view of what America's role in the world is. I mean, he clearly is an isolationist. He wants to disengage from the world. There are other people who want to do that in both parties, to be sure. But I fundamentally believe in the president's path that he's cut for the United States, and that's simply put America back on the world stage as a global leader to help stabilize and secure this world and help the economy, the world economy, to prosper. When the United States is exercising strong leadership through its military and through the strength of its economy, the world is a safer place.
Yeah,
we've seen the opposite these last 7 or 8 years.
Well, we certainly have seen a real impact as a result of our military. You look at the fight against ISIS. Overnight in Kuwait, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson told the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State to not lose sight of the overall goal. While the group has driven the militants out of Iraq, nearly defeated them in Syria, there are mounting distractions, including infighting among coalition members. So first, give me your take on what's happened to ISIS and how this new increase in military spending is going to impact that and some of the other threats around the world. And then do you think the U.S. needs a shift in strategy for the Middle East?
Yes, I do. But first of all, to deal with ISIS, we took their territory away from them, and the people that were involved in that, our leaders and the Iraqis and the Syrian Democratic Forces, deserve huge credit for doing that. But there's still somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 ISIS fighters in Syria, in Iraq, hiding, waiting to conduct terrorist activities, waiting to reemerge, particularly if the United States and our coalition forces lead, just as what happened in Iraq when President Obama pulled us all out. That would be a huge mistake. We cannot do that. When the Middle East strategy, what we've got to recognize, the number one threat in the Middle East is the Iranians, who are trying to establish hegemonic control of the Middle East. They've got Lebanon politically, militarily. They now have largely most of Syria. They're beginning to encroach on Israel. They're dead serious about establishing bases in Syria to fire missiles into Israel. That's why the Israelis are pushing back. They have some political influence in Iraq that we don't have, and they also want control of Yemen. I think it's time now to stand up some kind of Arab NATO and recognize that we have got to push back on the Iranians, particularly with the windfall of money that they received as a result of the nuclear deal and the return of their sanctions and their money that was tied up in international and U.S. banking. We've got to stop these guys with their aggressive and malign behavior.
But is it going to work? I mean, even when the deal wasn't even signed, they were still saying death to America.
They will always say death to America. They started it in 1979. They say it every single year. There's two things that they want to achieve to be able to control the Middle East, and they talk about it every single year. One is drive the United States out of the Middle East, and that's what they're trying to do in Syria and other places. And number two, destroy the state of Israel. They are absolutely 100% consistent on that.
Incredible.
And that's what they're about, and we've got to recognize it for that, and we've got to stand up against it with our allies.
Real quick, a word on this budget, because we're taking a look at the appropriations now. I mean, that's the next step here. What should be the appropriate end result for some of this increase in spending in terms of appropriations? Where are the needs, General, from your standpoint?
Well, first of all, the overall amount for 2018, as agreed to in the budget agreement, should be about $700 billion. And that includes the base budget and what we spend for contingency operations overseas. And for 2019, it should be somewhere around what we agreed to, around $716 billion. And initially, we've got to get out there and fix this equipment that's in such disrepair that you happen to mention to Mr. Stockman. That is absolutely essential. And we've got to provide our pilots with the flying hours to train and others that need to get their training done, and then begin with the future capability in that budget. Our people know what to do. And listen, I'm encouraged by this. The number 2 guy in the Defense Department is a businessman. There's a lot of money that we can save inside the Defense Department if we use business practices. Defense Department is not a business, but many of its functions, Maria, are business-like functions, and it needs that kind of expertise and experience to help it.
Really interesting, General. Great analysis as always. Thanks so much.
Good talking to you, Maria.
And to you. We'll see you soon, sir. General Jack Keane there.